So, introducing Rahul Somani, who is a chartered accountant by profession and is with ESOP Direct since over 12 plus years. And he currently leads consulting and managed services of ESOP Direct, which is part of the Capita company. He has previously worked with PwC for 5 years, and in ESOP Direct, his career spans over 12 years, in which he has advised more than 250 plus clients, and he's a well-known person in the equity compensation industry. So I hope this session on ESOP cashless and exercise funding will be fruitful for all of you. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. Meanwhile, all of you can post your questions in the chat box. Over to you, Rahul sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jigar. Thanks for a nice introduction. And yeah, so I just prepared a slide for my introduction, but it's fine. All what Jigar has said is absolutely right, except for the photo, which is an old one. Does not show about the 12 years, but yeah. So I just moved for the today's our topic, and it's very close to employees' heart, which is like so employee cashless exercise and ESOP funding. So I welcome you all once again for our this knowledge series on employee stock options. And today we will try to means you will get the as much knowledge as we can give it, that you can understand that how these processes works, how these different approaches are there, which will helpful to the employees while exercising. So this is more related to how the exercise happens, what are the things employees need to take care, what are the things companies need to take care, what are the different approaches. So before starting to those, I just start with the ESOP life cycle to understand that we all are on the same page, and we can start at the same way. So the first starting point is grant. Yes, I know many of you are aware of ESOP life cycle, how it works, what are the things, what are the incidents, or I will say the events happen in an ESOP life cycle. But still, just want to recap all those things so that it is easy for all our other audiences as well, that how it works. So the first is the grant, when the company offers ESOPs to employees. So this is the time when the scheme terms and everything has been drafted. So I have not gone to that level of approval and all, because in today's webinar, we are going to cover more from the exercise process and operations and what are the approaches available, rather than a scheme compliances and all. So that's why I started with grant. So grant is when the company offer ESOPs to employees with all terms and conditions are freezed. And this is the time when employee receives the right. So it is a provisional right he has received, and which has been communicated through a letter of grant. As a good operations process, it's always recommended that the employee should accept it, so that we know that okay, he understood the grant terms and conditions. Then comes the vesting. Vesting is something where employee earns the right after after fulfilling the vesting condition. So vesting conditions are also determined by the company, which has been disclosed in the letter of grant. That means time is like a given, it is a given thing, but what are the performance things he need to do, or he should be with the organization for this much period, and he will get the option. So vesting is the period when this provisional rights converts into the absolute right of the employee, and then employee can exercise these options. So this is something is a second event. Third event is the exercise, when employee decides to exercise. So this is in the hands of the employee. Over the exercise period, he can decide any time that when he wants to exercise his rights, and the shares has been allotted. So this is more like a intimation, or I will say a intimation by the employees to the company or to the intermediary, that okay, I want to exercise my rights, and now you allot me the shares. So this is something is in the hands of the employee. One important thing here, because this is relevant for my other slides, that the perquisite tax incidence in India comes at the time of exercise. So this is very important, that the employee need to pay tax when he decides that okay, now I want to I exercise my rights, which has been given by under the ESOP scheme, and I want the equity shares into the company. Then comes, yes, the best part, where he realizes the benefit. It is a wealth creation. So it is the actual thing when he sells the shares into the market and get the benefit from those shares. And it is also called as the getting the liquidity. So just want to recap, and here the capital gain implication comes up. Yes, so if you sell it into the market or if you sell it to the third party, it is a capital gain implications with employee needs to take care. So the tax part has been divided into two. One is exercise, one is sell. But the sell part is also from the cash flow point of view. At the time of exercise, there is an outlay from the employee because he need to pay exercise amount and taxes, and at the time of sell he will get the net realization after deducting capital gain taxes, or he can pay capital gain taxes depending upon the transaction part. So important thing here is these are the things which has been decided by the company and offered by the company, that how the grant will happen, what are the terms and conditions, what are the vesting schedule. And this is the portion which is employee's discretion, where employee decides when he wants to exercise and when he wants to sell those shares. So very important to bifurcate these things in a ESOP life cycle, because some of the things on the exercise, yes, that you can put an administrative things there, like what would be the exercise window, what would be when he can exercise, what is the process, but it's totally employee's discretion when he wants to exercise his rights. It's not something that somebody will force him to exercise the option. So very, very clear here. Moving, so this puts the background for my other presentations. So now coming to ESOPs in India, very, very important. Just want to show you the macro picture that how ESOPs are working in India. And so this is something from when we did our last survey. So I can tell you this is a 1 year back, and we are in the process of the new survey. So you will find a much higher number there. But this is what we got it from our last survey. And yes, we are showing the same, like what is the how many. So there are more than 10,000 companies who has granted ESOPs. Very big number. If you see more than 10 lakhs ESOP holders. If you see value of options, it's like 2 lakh crores, which is like, you can say, I mean, in the Nifty 50 companies, you can find one of the Nifty 50 companies may have. So it is more than that. So this is like 2 lakh crores of the value, and these are growing by 25 to 30%. So this is very important. And I repeat again that yes, we did survey last year, and this is from the data what we got from our survey, which we actually do in every 2 years. So this data will change with this year as well when you find a new survey from. So we also do the current study on PSC Sensex companies, 30 companies which are in the PSC Sensex. And what we found that 80% of the companies has equity incentive plan. So which is like that in somehow they are giving ESOPs to employees, either in the form of ESR, either in the form of ESOPs or RSUs, whatever you call. But 80% of the companies has a equity incentive plan, which is like a big number. And if we dissect these numbers into more detail, if you see that how we have dissected this, so and when we have totaled it down, the total aggregate number of exercise amount, that if suppose everything whatever has been granted, an employee wants to exercise today, the employees need to pay shell out or give around 18,000 crores, which is like a very big number. And I have not, in 18,000 crores, it does not consider the tax amount. So tax amount, if I, with the assumed number, if I see 5,000 crores, it's like a 23,000 crores only for these 30, or I would say out of 30, 80% of the companies which are in the BSc Sensex. So you can see that it is like a huge challenge to employees sometime when they see that, okay, this is the money shell out at the macro level. So this is our today's more going into deep into these topics, that how the employees can pay or how the liquidity will affect the employees during this. Yes, for taking out this number, yes, we have considered some of our means we have taken some of the assumptions, and this information is from BSc website, information in public domain, and yes, disclosures in annual report. So this is, we have considered the grant for 2020, 21, 22, 23. So all these numbers are total of that. And we have considered value of options as per the current market price. So it is like whatever the market price currently in for these companies, we have considered that part. We have not, as I repeat myself, this number is more to give you a indication actually that what are the challenges we are talking about when employees comes for exercise. And yes, if there is any underwater options, we have considered the exercise amount, but we have not considered the tax on that. So in some of the companies, if the options are underwater, we have considered only the exercise amount here. So still, if you see, it is like a huge number which means comes out of this particular study. Moving to my next slide. Yeah. So now coming to more deeper, and I will in this slide actually I want to put it from more on the micro level, that how these things affect a particular employee, because in the earlier slides you have seen that in a macro level with only BSE 30 companies, and out of this how many 80% companies have equity incentive plan, what is the number coming out, and which is like a very eye-opening for us as well, that there is a 23,000 crores of amount which need to be shell out by the employees to get these benefits. But if I come to an individual or micro level of thing, I just want to present one illustration around this part, that how this this works. So this is just a small example. I suppose if Mr. A has an annual salary of 30 lakhs and he got the benefit in ESOPs, which has been vested over a period of time, and now he wants to exercise. So he has a 10,000 vested options in hand with a 10 rupees exercise price. Suppose the current market price or FMV is 1,000 rupees, and tax rate, the tax bracket, he is approximately 30%. So this is all the assumptions, but just want to put your indication towards that when you are deciding, that when the employee wants to exercise, and when you are deciding your scheme, you should also consider that, okay, if I'm giving this much benefit, how he's going to pay that much amount. So that is also very important. That's what we want to show in this particular slide, that what are the challenges employees can face while they are exercising their options. So to get the benefit of 1 crore, the employee needs to pay 30 lakhs 10,000 rupees. 10,000 I had just kept it for the exercise price, which is I kept it lower that at rupees 10. So if somebody is exercising 1,000 options, he need to pay 10 rupees. This is 10,000. But the tax amount of that 1 crore is 30 lakhs, which he need to pay before getting the shares, because when the company has a TDS liability, so they want to collect this amount at the time of allotment of shares. So when he is go and ask that, okay, I want these number of shares, this 10,000 options, which is equivalent to 1 crore. He need to shell out first from his pocket 30 lakhs 10,000, which if you see from an individual point of view, this is sometimes like his annual salary, which is like that I need to pay out the 100% of my annual salary, which for getting the 1 crore. So this is something where the liquidity crunch or challenges comes for the employee. So from this, I just want to come back that what are the challenges employee can feel. So liquidity crunch, employee may be out of funds, because paying out this much amount, generally employees does not have that much liquidity. Either it is invested amount, so they need to come out from the investment or break their FDs, or maybe sell their earlier investments. So this may be a liquidity crunch if employee may be out of funds. Yeah, sometimes not able to get early liquidity due to restriction on sale. So even if you exercise, so from somewhere you pay 30 lakhs rupees, but if you are a designated employee or an insider trading regulations comes into the picture, where there are some restrictions that when you can sell, when you can't sell those shares. So that also need to take care, and sometimes this period longevate the cost of taking that paying that liquidity. So that is something is very important to check. Arranging funds from internal or external sources, which sometimes leads to a higher interest rate, because if you go to some fund house, or maybe to the bank, or maybe to the internal sources, the interest rate they will charge is sometimes much higher. and it is like a cost. So that if you are getting a benefit of some amount, this is the cost you need to consider. So this is very important when you are arranging for the funds. Duration between exercising stock options and receiving allotment amplifies the cost of funds. So what we want to say here, that sometimes it happens that it takes 2 or 3 months times as well when you come to the allotment of shares. You exercise today, you pay every amount today to the company, but maybe because of some compliances required that it can be done only in the share allotment committee or in the board meetings. It may happen that it may be a period gap between the exercise and allotment of shares, which may be from 1 month to 2 months, 3 months, or depending upon how means when the meetings will happen. So this will increase the cost of funds for him, because where he has taken the funds from outside, every single day will increase the interest cost for him. So that is like a, so if there is a longer exercise period, the amplifies the cost of funds as well. Lack of communication, very important, because companies wants to communicate on vesting every time, but this is also very important that the company should communicate to the employees at the time of exercise, giving them what are the risks available, how they can arrange the funds, what are the ways available, because this will help employees to understand that okay, this much is a shell out of money, how I'm going to arrange these funds to exercise the option. Should I wait for some more time? Should I do it today, or maybe so all these things. So this communication helps employees to understand that when to exercise, how much is the risk involved, and how much are the funds required here. So very important for the companies as well to guide employees at this time. So this is some of the challenges employees can face. Now we can the next of my slide is more about what are the alternatives available. So alternatives available is something that how to come out of these situations where we can help employees that they should not be out of liquidity at the time of exercise, and even if they are taking some funds or something outside from external sources or fund houses, how companies can help them by designating some fund brokers or a funding house, so that it will be helpful for them uh, to get these funds. So this is the alternatives or different approaches available. So first is a cashless exercise. So this is, so anybody can ask what do you mean by cashless exercise? So that we will cover in our next slides. But cashless exercise is something where employee does not need to pay anything, and he will get the net shares out of this. So this is something is a cashless exercise, and it can be done through trust and fund houses. Yes, the company's intention is very much required in cashless exercise, because here the employee does not create a trust and do all these things. It's a company who can help them to, and it should be implemented at the time of ESOP scheme as well. So that are some of the things. But these are the approaches or alternatives available for the company to help employees at the time of exercise, where they can take care that okay, the employees will not be completely out of funds at the time of exercise, and how these routes can help them in getting or in saving the liquidity part. Actually, that is very important, and they will get the benefit whatever they are looking for. So first is like cashless exercise through trust, and cashless exercise can be done through fund houses. So we will go into the details that how the operationally it works. ESOP funding, yes. So ESOP funding can be done by fund houses, can be done by company. I have not considered the other internal sources or unorganized sources, which may be. So this is like a some of the alternatives available in India, which I want to say. So where we want to focus from this slide point of view. So ESOP cashless. So how it works and what do you mean by cashless exercise? So cashless exercise allows employees to exercise their stock options without putting up any liquidity. Very important to see that the employee can exercise, because as I said in my earlier talk or presentation, that employee needs to pay exercise amount and taxes to get that allotment. So how it happens that employee allows to exercise their stock option without putting any liquidity. He does not put to anything. He just instruct and he will get the share. So how this process works. So mechanism, and you can call it as a process. So what employee sells, employee, or he can instruct company or third party or trust or special purpose vehicle to sell a portion of their shares to cover the cost of acquiring or exercising the stock options. Very, very important that you shell out some of your benefit to recover this amount, and the remaining shares will be given to you. So it will be like a net sell. And the employee will get the benefit out of it. What is the advantage? Anyone can say, okay, what is the advantage? So it provides a convenient way to exercise their options without need an immediate cash outflow, because this is one of the very important from the employee point of view, that he can save that cash outflow. And if he opt for a cashless exercise where he does not need to come out of, or he does not face the liquidity crunch, he can sell some portion of the shares for acquiring these options. Very, very important to understand this part, that how the cashless means, because it is different from the funding. Cashless means you will get the net or remaining shares. In a funding, yes, you will get a loan where you need to pay it over the period of time. So we come to those topic later on in our today's webinar. So moving to how this works. So first start with the cashless through trust. Very important and most popular way to do it through trust, because it helps from the administrative point of view. It helps also from the compliance point of view, and even it helps because it is also regulated under SEBI regulation. So there is no gray area as such that how these things will happen. So many things has been framed by law. There is a I will say the law has defined that, okay, how these things will happen, considering all, like how insider trading regulation will impact, how SEBI regulations will impact. So they have given all this. So I just go to some process. Yes. So starting from this, yes, this diagram looks little bit complex, but it is not so. If you see, yes, there is a special purpose vehicle required, which is trust. So very important to understand. So I just go step by step that how it works to give you in detail that how this process works actually. So company, and yes, I have not shown here the implementation of ESOP scheme through trust or how to create a trust, because that is more from the compliance point of view, and the company needs to take care when they are implementing any ESOP scheme. Because creating a trust later on may have some implication, because SEBI allows to implement a trust later on also, but you need to give a reason that why you want to move to trust from a direct route. So very important. I'm not going into that because that is a totally different subject and a very deep I will say deep subject. I'm not moving into that side. Sticking to that, what the process is. So what are the steps involved? So first is funding by the company to the trust. Very important, because trust is a special purpose vehicle created by the company. So company needs to fund the trust as per, and yes, they need to consider what are the Companies Act regulations around the same, what are the SEBI regulations around the same, and within that maximum and minimum limit from the Companies Act and SEBI regulation, company can grant loan to or fund trust for acquiring the shares. Shares can be acquired either from secondary acquisitions or primary allotment. In my example, I have gone ahead with the issue of shares by the company. I have not shown the secondary acquisition because there are some other compliances trust need to do if they're going for a secondary acquisition of shares. So looking at the time, we have only 1 hour to cover all these things. I thought that we should go with a simple example. But just to so issue of shares by the company. Jigar, I can see some hands raised. So if you can ask the query, it will be great because I can't change my screen.
Yeah, basically, everybody post your queries in the chat box. We will take them at the end of the presentation.
Are you able to see my screen, right? And
yeah, we are able to see your screen. You can continue, sir.
Sure. Yeah. So sorry. So I just repeat. So first step is funding by the company to trust as a loan for the acquisition of these shares. So acquisition of these shares either from the secondary acquisition or a primary allotment by the company. In this example, we are going ahead with a primary allotment by the company, where company. So the next step is acquiring those shares where trust subscribe for these shares from the company, and the company allot these shares to the trust demat account. That is important. The third step is exercise of options by the employee for the transfer of shares. So at the time of exercise, employee will need make it very clear either he wants the whole all shares, or so that he need to fund those price if he has the funding, or if he has a liquidity that he can fund the whole exercise plus taxes, he can go ahead, pay all amount to trust, get the whole shares in his demat account, whatever is the number has been granted. If you ask me in my earlier example, it will be like I pay 30 lakhs 10,000 and get a 1 crore rupees worth of shares in my demat account. The second is he may say that, okay, I don't have that much fund. I want to go for a cashless exercise where trust will sell the shares which is required for collecting that exercise amount and taxes, and the transfer the remaining shares to the employee. So this is very important, that the trust will calculate all these things, that okay, this is the number of shares required which I need to sell it into the market, and the remaining shares will be transferred to employee's demat account. So in this case, the trust is recovering the exercise amount and taxes from the net proceeds. So this is very important. Yes, so I just go to the SEBI regulations. So currently, employee can't say to the trust that you can sell my all shares and give me the cash, because as per SEBI regulations in India, complete sell or sell all is not allowed. We need to go with a partial sell where remaining shares will be transferred to the employee's demat account. Maybe the employee can sell it into the next day, get the cash out of it. That his discretion, because it's a free shares with him. But from the regulation side or from the trust side, trust can sell only that much shares which is required to recover exercise amount and taxes. So this is from the cashless through trust. And yeah, just want to add here. Yes, so this transactions, yes, is governed by Companies Act. We need to check the Companies Act from the compliance point of view. We also need to check SEBI regulations, because SEBI regulation has also given some of the things that how this trust will work, who will operate this trust, how you can manage this trust, who become the trustee. So all these things companies need to take care when they are creating a trust. And also we need to consider, or we need to take care of SEBI regulations, insider trading regulations as well, because trust is an insider. So the cashless exercise what I talk about is also applicable to trust and even insiders. If they are exercising, there may be some time gap between, or may not be allowed to do the cashless in that period. So all those things, maybe if we make it clear to the trust, if we make a process manual, it will be much easier. But this is one of the option, and I say very popular option in India, where the trust helps employees to do a cashless exercise. Moving to my next slide. Cashless through fund house. So yes, so if you do not have trust, well, how you will do it? So very important, because it may happen that you feel, okay, I don't need a trust, and still I want to give this facility to my employees, that where they can do a cashless exercise. They don't need to invest their own liquidity and get the shares or get the net shares out of it. So if you see here, yes, there is a fund house you can see, which is a special purpose vehicle between employee and company. It is not a trust. So in my earlier slide, it was a trust, but now it is a fund house. But yeah, there are little bit of different things altogether. So if we go with a step, so employee will exercise the options first. In my earlier slide, it is like a company can give loan, and the trust can acquire or subscribe shares from the company. But in this case, exercise of options by the employee, which is the first step. Yes, there are some prerequisite where the fund house should complete the pre-sanction loan and demat with the fund house. Very important for this particular step to be completed. So this is very important and prerequisite. And it also helps in the KYC, because those are some of the things which governs the fund house giving loan to employee, or so he should have a prerequisite that he has a pre-sanction loan, or he is eligible to get that loan from a fund house. The next step is once this exercise happen, the instructions will also go to fund house. Fund house will transfer exercise amount and taxes to the company on behalf of employees. So this is more like a fund house will transfer those shares, and then the company will issue the shares in the demat account marked by, very important, marked by fund house, which is generally a lien on the in the with the fund houses. So it is not a freely available shares, it is a liened shares, which is liened by the fund houses, but has been transferred to that particular demat account. The next step is the fund houses will transfer that much shares, which is required to in the market to deduct loan, which is in the form of exercise amount and taxes, and if any interest there. So I have not write interest there, but it is more depend upon what is the arrangement company can make with the fund houses, but he will deduct exercise amount, taxes, and some interest element, other charges, whatever he and deduct, and and recover this amount, which will be which is the square of using the square of to square of the loan actually, and the remaining shares will be either kept in the employee demat account without lien, or if employee wants, it can be transferred to any other demat account or any other demat account employee has. So very important to understand here that yes, the fund house do the work of trust, but not in a complete manner. But yes, very much. But yes, here the fund house will decide the eligibility for the employees, that okay, how much pre-sanction loan I can give, where the demat account needs to be opened. So these are some of the things company should take care with when they're going for this arrangement. Second important thing here is this arrangement may not be applicable for non-resident Indians and foreign nationals, because there are some RBI restrictions that how much loan you can give, whether you can give loan to NRIs or not. So that's why maybe this arrangement may not work for NRIs and foreign nationals. So this is very important to understand here, that how these things works. Yeah. So next, coming to ESOP funding, very, I mean, not very, I mean, it's more like that if the company is going for external funding, if the company, it's a, or employee is going for external funding, sorry, my mistake. If the employee is going for external funding, company can say, okay, we can help you out to get the funds. We can discuss with the fund houses, we can arrange a better rate for you. And it is like that if you are going through us, it will be a blanket rate for all employees. So it will be, so that helps, that can help employees to get a better rate, and maybe the cost of acquisition will be lower actually for the employees while exercising ESOPs. So meaning is more like this is a facility. So I will more call it as a facility provided to employees, because it's the employee's choice whether to go with a fund house or not, or whether they have a internal liquidity, or maybe they can arrange a internal funds. That is their call. But it is a facility that can be provided to employees to fund their exercise amount and taxes, and through a designated fund house of the company. So this is something that even company can fund. But yes, with some restrictions, we come to those things later on in our webinar. But it is it can be like a through some fund houses, NBFCs, or maybe bank, depending upon the company can go. But yes, if the company is providing this facility, it will be more helpful to the employees, because they will get a better rate, they will get a better cost of for acquiring these shares, and it will increase their benefit, reduce their cost. That is very important. So cost benefit analysis is very much important when you are going through ESOP funding process. So employee approaches fund houses, because it's a blanket agreement company will do with the fund houses, but employee individually needs to approach fund houses to get a pre-sanctioned loan for the cost of and this is to the extent, I mean it is more for to the extent of acquiring those stock options. Very important that, so that acquiring stock options here means acquiring equity actually. So it is more like I can exercise my stock options and get the equity out of it. So this is the process. Advantage, very convenient avenue to exercise, because you don't need to immediately cash outlay. Very important, you don't need to pay cash immediately. it can be repaid over a period of time, depending upon how you negotiate with the fund houses, what is the terms and conditions they are giving it to you, but it will be paid over a period of time. Sometimes it's a short-term loans, which are like 6 months to 9 months. Sometimes it's a longer as well, depending upon how the fund houses are discussing with you. But yes, it is not like I can arrange that fund over a period of time. It can be converted into an EMI, all these things, but very important that it will not go away my current cash outflow. I'm in my money over a period of time. Yes, there are some risk involved. We will talk to that part later on our slides, but there are some risk involved here. That if you take a funding, and that's a normal, even if you go for any other funding or loan or something, the same, that the value of those shares what you are acquiring should match with the loan taken, or maybe higher than the loan taken by you for the exercise amount and taxes. So very important. And yeah, the NBFCs or fund houses will decide that what would be the margin money, how much loan they can provide. That is something they give in the pre-sanction letters. So those are the things which employee and even the company need to take care. But yes, definitely we will cover all these points in next slides. So funding support to employees, how it works actually. So very, very important that so we should understand the process, because there is a limited role of the company. There is a limited, and the more role is between the employee and the fund houses. So it also starts with exercise by the employee. Very important. Employee will send the exercise form to the company, or tell company that okay, I want to exercise my this much number of options, and one of that copy will also be sent to the fund houses. Very important, because fund houses should also know that okay, he wants to take the funding out of this. Yes, fund house will provide their own checking part, that okay, I mean, whether the employee is holding that much options, whether it is not, I mean, it is already vested. All these things will be taken care by the fund houses as well. So maybe they may discuss with the company, but employee will exercise first thing. The fund houses will also get the intimation, and once he do all that KYC checking and everything, he check that okay, there is a pre-approved loan sanction, and he make the payment accordingly. So the fund house will make the payment of exercise amount plus taxes to the company. Yes, and then the company will allot the shares in the demat account, which is provided by the fund houses. So this is a demat account of employee only, but as I say, it is charge on demat. So the fund houses will put a charge or lien on demat. So it is not a employee will not sell those shares freely. The first charge is of the fund houses. So even if employees sell those shares, the fund houses will get the money. They will square off their loan, and then the remaining amount will be transferred to employees. So that is something is need to be taken care. So in this process, it will be more between employee and fund houses. Employee need to be very clear that he has a pre-sanctioned loan from fund houses. The demat has been disclosed to fund houses, that in which demat it needs to be passed. It is in the name of the employee, and the fund house will create a charge on that demat. Once the loan has been repayment over the period, which will be depend upon the terms and conditions as discussed between the company and provided to the employee. And that yes, as the employee clear of that loan, the charge will be removed, and all these shares will be available to employee to sell next day, or maybe keep it as an investment. So this is something is more for the funding support to employees, or I will call it as a ESOP funding. Here again, just want to repeat what I said in my last slide, that NRIs and foreign nationals are restricted because RBI has some restrictions on fund houses, that how much amount they can give, whether they can whether they can provide loan or not, or if the NRI and foreign nationals of some neighboring countries, it is like a pre-approved thing. Means it is like you can't provide a loan to the NRIs or foreign nationals who are bordering India. it needs a prior approval. Similar, very similar to ESOP. So fund houses need to be very clear on those things. So there are many restrictions on the same, and many times fund houses reject applications from NRI and foreign nationals as well. So we should be very clear on this thing, that it is very restrictive for those people. But yes, for the resident Indians, it's a clear process and well defined, and even fund houses know that okay, how to make it. So I have not covered the company funding in a slide, because means it's not a very I will say the famous, or I will say the very it is not a practice that the companies are providing loan for ESOP purposes, because there are some restrictions by the Companies Act that how much you can provide. Second thing, if you give an interest-free loan, then there is a perquisite tax comes on that interest-free loan. So all these things. So there are lots of compliances and complexity if the company is providing funds to employees for exercise of their own shares. So that's why I have not covered in a separate slide. But yes, this is a comparison where you can see in a one slide as a snapshot that if the company is looking for a cashless, how it is going to impact. If you are going for a ESOP funding, how it is going to impact between the different approaches they can take. And yes, it depends upon your circumstances. It depends upon your administrative thing, how much you can take, how many employees you have covered, whether your employees need these facilities or not. Very, very important. So going from the first column, so trust. Yes, trust cashless can be applicable. Sorry. Trust cash through cashless through trust can be applicable to all employees, even for NRIs and foreign nationals can do cashless exercise. Yes, some approvals are required from RBI for NRI and foreign nationals, but it's not something that it is restrictive. It is more like that they will give a one-on-one approvals. But so we can say that it is applicable to all employees. Yes, there are some compliances, SEBI regulation and Companies Act, but sometimes it's good that you know, okay, how it works. It's not a blackboard. Okay, these are the terms and conditions. These are the compliances I need to follow. So sometimes it makes the things very certain and very easy to understand. Limit, no such limit. Trust can provide loan depending upon only thing that the options or should not be underwater. Otherwise, they can provide loan to the 100% of the exercise amount of excess. So there are no such limit as provided. Risk involved less, yes, because it's a company is only administrating trust. So the risk on the employee for the non-compliances, on the company for the non-compliances are very less. The trust is a special purpose vehicle administered by the company. Administrative, easy to handle, I will say, as compared to others, because the company is managing this thing, and many things are the process driven, where over the period of time will be put like operations and automated process. So that can be done easily. Fund houses, as I say, applicable only for resident Indians. NRI and foreign nationals are not covered. And the law compliances, yes, general laws for loan and demat. So fund houses employee need to take care of KYC, opening of demat account, how much loan they can make, what would be the margin money. All these things need to be taken care by the fund houses and employee. As I said, no such limit, but yes, there is some margin money. So that fund houses will take care. Risk involved higher for insiders, yes, because when it is a trust, the trust is also insider, so they will not sell the shares during that blackout period. But fund houses, if they find that the margin money is going down, they can sell. So that is something as a risk more involved. That if they sell the shares or at that point of time when there is a blackout period, the non-compliances will come on the employee or insider. So that is very important. The process should be very watertight so that these compliances should not, we should not be in default for these compliances, and very specific to insider trading regulation. Easy but expensive, because fund houses will charge their own interest rate and cost for opening demat and all these things. So easy but expensive. If I go for the funding, some of the things are very common for cashless and ESOP funding, as I said, and so I just repeat. So like foreign nationals not allowed. General law for loan and demat will be applicable based on credit rating and KYC. So how much loan fund house can give is depending upon what is your credit rating, what is your KYC, how much shares options you are holding, whether it is within the margin money. All these things need to be considered. Higher or for insiders again, because if the prices dip, fund houses can sell your shares to cover their own loan and taxes. So that is very important. That for how much period you have taken, and during that period, if due to any reason prices dip, it is a risk, and the fund houses can sell, and more risk for the insiders because when they can sell those shares. So same easy but expensive because the interest cost are there, and sometimes you need to open the demat account, and all these funding things need to be done from the fund houses. Funding from company not very popular because there are many, means there is a limit that how much you can give, which is very much defined in the Companies Act, not very large limit actually given by the Companies Act when you are giving loan for subscribing your own shares. Risk involved higher as because the maximum cap is something company need to take care at the individual level. Very, very important. So that is something difficult to manage because if you go with a, as I told earlier, if you go for an interest-free loan on this thing where the employee providing that funding, then it is like you need to take care of the perquisite value, how much will be the interest, and then there's a perquisite tax on the employee. So those things make a complex, and that's why it is not much popular in India where companies are funding ESOP. Other implications, yes. Whenever you are thinking of ESOP cashless exercise or ESOP funding, some of the other implications companies need to take care. Actually, this is more from the company side as well that they need to take care. First is the legal and regulatory compliances. As we mentioned in our earlier slides as well, company need to take care of SEBI insider trading regulations. What is the trading window closure? There should be a proper plan. If you are going for a funding addition, if you are going for a cashless exercise for employees, RBI process is there that how foreign nationals and NRIs can exercise. That is very important. If you are going for a funding, NRIs and foreign nationals are not allowed or very restricted. And means in our experience, if you ask me, in my experience, we have seen very, very limited cases there actually, or maybe you can say nil. So very limited cases where fund houses have agreed to fund NRIs and foreign nationals. Accounting and taxation impact on trust and employees. Very important that, as I told, accounting implication on trust, how they do cashless exercise, how the accounting will be done, how you can manage it at the scheme level. And taxation impact on employees. If the company is funding, then there is a taxation impact on employees that need to be taken care actually and must be communicated. Second, very important, communication and education. Very important to ensure that employees understand the implication if they are going with a ESOP funding or a cashless exercise. So employees should understand the benefits and risk involved. Very important, very clear communication is required. And even it is not a one-time thing that, okay, at the time of grant, the communication happen and it is done. It should be a regular because the grant and exercise have some time period actually. If you see our first slide ESOP life cycle, sometimes the grant happens and the exercise is started after 2-3 years, which is a long period. Change all laws, change all compliances, complexities. So very important that these needs to be done very regularly for the employees to understand them that if they are going with a ESOP funding or cashless, what is the benefit risk involved, or they should go with their own funds actually. So that is very, very important. Administrative burden, yes, very important because managing cashless exercise involve administrative tasks because you need to manage either trust or fund houses, or you need to discuss with fund houses. So it also includes tracking stock options, scheme wise, exercising, managing paperwork, compliances. It should not be sold during the insider trading. All these things need to be taken care. So these are the other implications. Whatever approach you take, you need to have a scorecard where you can take it that, okay, you have taken care of regulatory compliances and administrative burden. Communication is something which I say that it should be a regular thing. It should be done every time or maybe every 6 months or 1 year, that employees should be aware of these implications. Key takeaways. So I think we are on the last slide. So Jigar, we have time, right, for taking questions, right? I am not.
Yes, we have time.
So key takeaway. So I will not take much time here. It will be like I will try to close this slide in next 5 minutes. So helps in retention, very important, that if you're considering, if you are taking care of the employees, that how they can exercise, how you can help them in facilitating. So it also helps in the retention of employees, because it may happen that if the outlay or the outflow is so high that employee will say, okay, I don't want to exercise my options, let it be, and that will be a potential barrier to exercising stock options. So very important that the company should facilitate, or the employee should be aware of that, how they can allow or take these funds. Actually, flexibility. So these facilities offer flexibilities where they can decide, they can structure their own exercise in such a way that even they can use their own funds for some percentage of thing. For some of percentage, they can go for the exercise of cashless for some funding. So all this structure can be done, and they can come out with the optimum solution. So those things, these facilities are more like a flexibility. It is not compulsory that you need to do in such a way. These facilities provide flexibilities to employees to use their own funds as well as the other. So it will give a optimum benefit for the employee. Risk mitigation. Yes, so it also save employees. It also shield from a substantial cash outflow by leveraging a loan or by cashless, or the loan is repaid with the proceeds from the sale of exercise shares. So it helps employees that they are not under the burden of the large loan, or they don't know how to repay it, or maybe they need to go for an unorganized sector where the interest is very high. So there will be a substantial risk involved. By these facilities, they can avoid, or they can take the calculated risk. I will say not avoid, but I will say calculated risk from this, that if I'm selling my net shares out of this, and I means I don't want to go for any loan, or if I don't want to deploy my own funds, it is easy for them to handle these risks. Immediate liquidity. Yes, so ESOP cashless exercise provide them immediate liquidity, as they will get the net shares which are not lean, and they can sell it into the market and get the liquidity out of it, of the net shares. So from the employee side, it is not something that they need to pay and exercise and wait for when I'm getting the shares. It is more like that it is cashless from the first day. So at the time of allotment, you will get the net shares, you can sell it into the market, get the liquidity, or you can keep it as an investment and you can enjoy the future appreciation. So it is not so I can call it as an immediate liquidity, or in a way that you are not selling out the cash, so the liquidity is with you. And yes, loan facilitations. Yes, so it helps in a way to avoid the liquidity crunch, but you need to pay it over the period of time. Where if you feel that the stock options which I have exercised will increase, the value will increase over the period of time. So it's okay. I want to hold all of my shares, and and we repay these loans over the period. But yes, all these things comes when the company wants to facilitate these things. So some of the things like cashless exercise by fund houses and cashless exercise by the trust is something which is facilitated by the company. In ESOP funding, employees can also get the funds from outside, but what in our knowledge or in our experience, then the cost of borrowing is higher than if the company is negotiating. The cost of borrowing is much lower, and it will be like a blanket terms and conditions for all the employees. So employees don't need to every employee don't need to negotiate with fund houses and check all terms and conditions. It's the company who can take care of those things. So yeah, so this is the last slide. So Jigar, if any questions are
We
there,
have two questions. One of the question is, in case of ESOP cashless exercise through trust, what will the tax liability on the trust will when the shares are sold by the trust on behalf of employees?
So in case of trust cashless exercise, because trust is a pass through, so if the trust is acquired these shares at very lower price than the exercise amount where the employee has exercised, there will be a tax implication on the trust. But if the cost of acquisition and the exercise amount where when the employee has exercised, if both are same, there is no tax implication on the trust because the trust is just a pass through. So it all depends upon the cost of acquisition. Just giving a small example here, suppose a company funded the trust and the trust acquired those shares from the company at 100 rupees and the exercise amount is 110. When the employee is exercising, the exercise amount is 110, then there is a 10 rupees tax or capital gain on the trust. But suppose the exercise amount is 100 and the cost of acquisition is also 100, there is no tax implication on the trust. The tax implication will be passed on to the employee when he is exercising by the perquisite thing. And when the trust sell those shares, it is selling on behalf of the employee. So there is a whatever the capital gain in a day or two or maybe 1 week time will be passed on to the employee.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question is, what are the, though it's a very generic, broad question, what are the tax implication for foreign employees in case of cashless exercise, especially where we don't have any DTAA with the countries where we don't have a double taxation avoidance agreement? So what will be the tax implication if you can just summarize it in some form?
So there are different circumstances, Jigar, and different points here. Because there are different rules and regulations around the same, that if whether the NRI and foreign national has a PAN number, whether he does not have a PAN number, this also depends upon the tax rate. Second thing, in some of the cases, the amount will be decided from the exercise amount to, means when they are selling the shares, it is decided from the exercise amount to the sell price, and then they need to recover for the perquisite value. So it depends upon the, and if there is no DTA agreement, they need to pay tax in India, and they need to pay tax in the country of residence as well. So there will be a double taxation on the employee. And if the tax comes in India, it is the difference between the perquisite value and exercise, or I will say FMV on the date of exercise minus exercise price. And the rate will be depend upon the PAN number, the whether he has a PAN, whether he does not have a PAN, depending upon the tax rate will be applicable. Or otherwise, it will go with the higher tax rate.
Okay. Another question is, can you just cover the loan to unlisted company employees in light of illiquid no lien? Can you elaborate that question, Prasad, more? Because we are not able to get your question. Can you just cover the loan to the unlisted company employees in light of illiquid no lien, etc.? That, I mean, the question is not complete. So there is another question, what is difference between RSU and ESOP? So I will just answer that. ESOP is basically when you are granting it at your current market price, and RSU is ESOPs given at your nominal face value, that is 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 5 rupee or 10 rupees. So that is the basic difference between these two instruments, is just the pricing difference. So ESOP generally means it is at the market price or fair market value, and RSU is at face value. What is preferable? That becomes a contextual question. We can take it basis. We can decide it basis the analysis of your business and everything. I think we don't have any more questions. We can wait for another minute before we close. The last question over the loan, if you can just edit it. Is the accounting cost to company high in case of cashless ESOP compared to traditional ESOP? So one question.
So I will say cashless does not have any impact on the accounting cost. Yes, the accounting you need to do for the trust, you need to do for in company. So that is more like an administrative, but it does not have any additional hit to the P&L. Yes, running that trust may have an additional impact of some few lakhs rupees in a year, which is more like managing trust. They're managing minutes, all these things, managing their audit fees, other. But from the ESOP point of view, whether you are going through a trust, whether you are doing it directly, it does not matter. Your ESOP accounting cost will be same.
Okay, one more question. Loan availability. What is the loan availability to the shareholders? Sorry, to the employees of an unlisted company, as the shares are not sellable. Also, company may not create lien on shares.
So actually it depends upon the circumstances, that if you are going for a DRHP, if you are going for a IPO, because even the fund houses will look for the liquidity, because if they are giving loan, they also looks at the liquidity, and providing the loan to the unlisted companies, the risk is higher for the fund houses. So maybe their margin money will be much higher, or maybe it depends upon the company rating. They can say that, okay, we can't provide on such loans. So there is no restrictions on the shares of for the unlisted company, but because of the illiquidity, sometimes fund houses are not, they are not interested, or I will say the risk is so high that they don't want to give ESOP funding to the unlisted companies. But company can internally, not related to this thing, but the company can internally see that the trust and mixing up with the cashless, that if they find some buyer, they can do it through trust and provide liquidity to the employees.
Okay, so one last question on that P&L impact. There is a follow-up question. Will there be no P&L impact at all due to funding by trust or even funding by fund house? If whatever the answer is, then why the market trend is that company follow more traditional ESOPs than through trust route?
Yeah, so there are other implications as well. It is not only accounting. So as I repeat myself, ESOP expenses does not change. Yes, managing those trust, and if you are going for a secondary acquisition, primary allotment, what would be the investment loss? That will be a different questions altogether. But from the accounting standard or India's 102 point of view, whether you are going to a direct route or trust route, it does not matter. Second thing, so I differ here with the because if you see our latest survey, the trend for trust implementation is much higher. Yes, it was not there earlier because the SEBI has given around the trust in 2014, and after 2-3 years, the companies are looking for a trust thing, that how they can manage it, how it can be done. But if you see our latest survey of 2022. The more listed companies are moving towards trust. The more listed companies, the trend is more towards that, to create a trust. So it is like if you ask me, it is a 20 to 30% rise where the companies are going through trust rather than a direct allotment. But other than this, yes, going through direct or trust also depends upon that if you are managing trust, how much cost you can manage it, because managing a trust needs some have a cost of, you can say, 10 to 12 lakh rupees in a year. And second thing, how many employees you are covering. If you feel that I have a very limited coverage and I can manage it internally, then the people don't go with that trust.
Yeah. So yeah, can cashless ESOP be designed? Yes, it can be designed for an unlisted company. We can help you to design a plan which can be cashless. Another question is what are the current funding options available for employees of unlisted? So as we iterated here, it can be through the fund houses as was shown by Rahul in his presentation. So it can be IPO funding as well, or another NBFCs can help you in getting the funds if there is any liquidity event in the company.